Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the Daniel James Photography Podcast, a YouTube channel. This is essentially where you can find the video of all the audio stuff that you found on any podcast streaming service that you subscribe to. This is episode 2 with Ashley Rae. She's a photographer based out of San Luis Obispo, California and Hawaii. Listen to the podcast. It's awesome how she's able to do that. We're going to be talking about branding, but before we get into the episode, I want to just let you guys know that the quality here is not the greatest, but it's going to improve, but I can't wait to get the content out to you. So I just started right away. We have so many awesome photographers and event coordinators and wedding industry leaders that we're going to be interviewing here. So if you're curious about how to get into wedding photography or curious about the wedding industry at all, this is the space for you to be. And I'm super excited that you're here. So go ahead and check out episode 2. If you're curious about episode 1 and where that is, you can find that on any other podcast streaming service. I'm not going to put it here. And so check it out on Apple or somewhere like that, or Spotify. Maybe later I'll do a podcast about who I am or a video version of that. So anyways, enjoy the episode. Thank you so much for being on this. You have no idea. I think branding is like a big question. Like I was saying, lots of photographers have to wrestle with, and lots of them maybe don't and don't know how to. But before we get into that, tell us about who you are and just like your backstory, and then maybe how you got into photography.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is fun. Um, so my business is under my name, Ashley Rae Studio. So Ray is my middle name, and basically we are a photography and cinematography company. So it started out just photography. I'm the lead photographer behind the business, and I just really fell in love with photography, and my husband saw that. So he's been a huge support getting our business up and running. And we added cinematography about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I actually started out, it's a long story. I won't bore you with all the details, but basically, I started working in the wedding industry with a videography company. So I worked on and off with them for about, I want to say between probably like 6 to 8 years. So shooting weddings, it was great because I was able to shoot a lot of weddings as a videographer, but not have the pressure of being the person hired. I was just the second shooter. So I got a really good understanding of the flow of weddings, how things worked, how things didn't work. And so it made it a lot easier when I started shooting a lot of photography and shooting weddings. I already felt more comfortable. So that was was really nice. So yeah, started out doing video, ended up I absolutely am super passionate about photography, wedding photography. Absolutely love it. And it's great. We're able to do photo and video for our clients, which is really fun.
That's super rad. That's like an interesting sort of setup. Most people, I feel like nowadays, start in photo and then add video. You kind of did it the opposite way. That seems like the trend is. But you're based in San Luis Obispo, right?
Yeah, San Luis Obispo, California. It's amazing if you haven't been here. Yeah.
And no, I have family there, and I love it. I'm originally from Southern California, and so going there for holidays was like an escape, and it was awesome. I love that place.
Well, you're in Monterey, right?
Yeah, I'm in Monterey now. Yeah.
I love Monterey.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I feel like I still have family down there, so going down is like so much easier. You don't have to hit up with the traffic from LA. But do you shoot like all over California, the US? Do you like?
Yeah, so I do. I shoot primarily in California. This past year, my husband and we have like a soft spot in our hearts for Hawaii, actually. So we just love it over there. And so last year we did a trip and did some work out there. And so basically what we're trying to do is go between California and Hawaii. I would go all over the place. It's so funny because you hear photographers all the time, like they want to be destination wedding photographers, but then I talk to destination wedding photographers and they're wanting to do more local weddings. So, you kind of just have to figure out what's good for your family and your personal life. So for us, Um, we kind of like that. If we could go to Hawaii a month out of the year or something like. In fact, I'm actually supposed to be in Hawaii right now for a wedding tomorrow, and so that's not happening because of COVID, obviously. But it got moved to next year, so we'll celebrate with the couple then.
Dude, that's crazy. I love that. So that's one of the cool things to me about photography as far as like business. You can really like set up shop in many places and like
Yeah,
create markets or like get into markets in different areas. And that is like where else, what else can you do with that? Where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna go to this place and enjoy this weather for a little bit and then come back
yeah,
and whatever. It's
for
just
sure, for
cool.
sure.
So
Yeah.
how long have you been, did you shoot, was that your first wedding last year in Hawaii, or are you like setting up shop there now and like starting to bring in?
So basically, what we have done, we went on a trip last year for like vacation, and when we travel anywhere that we love to be, we try to do a little bit of work while we're over there. So I was able to make some connections with some planners over there and do some work for them and help them out with some like headshots and just get to know them a little bit. So it was great. And
That's
you know,
cool. So,
yeah,
so question about that then. Let's say someone wants to set up, I don't know, let's say they're based out of Canada and they want to work in the US, right? Um, so one way that they could do that is that like they contacted or they could contact like a wedding vendor or a venue or maybe even like a planner and just
yeah.
start touching base. Is that's what you're saying, how you did that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, it's the whole networking aspect of things is really big. What I've learned and what I hear a lot from people who are successful with this is it's it doesn't really work to reach out to vendors or planners and say, "Hey, can you refer me weddings or can we work together? I want to get to know you so because of what you can give me." So there's a lot of, and I think it's a really good business practice anyway to approach whether it's vendors or potential clients, what can I do for you kind of thing. So I think that's a good way to live life anyway. But when you approach planners or again potential clients, you're like, what do you need that I can provide? So you take a little bit of a risk that you could provide something for them and nothing will ever come with it. You just give. But in a very competitive industry, you kind of have to be one step ahead of the other guy, so to speak, and be willing to go that extra mile anyway. So I found that, just being genuine and reaching out to whether it's planners or other vendors that you want to work with, asking them what do you need, what can I provide for you, and then just start the relationship there and see what comes of it.
Cool. That's super helpful and very
Yeah.
valuable, actually. So, how long have you been photographing weddings for then? I don't know if I asked that question.
Yeah, so I've actually been shooting weddings for about 3 years only, not super long. I think my first like official paid wedding, yeah, was about 3 years ago. And it's funny because it hasn't been that long, but honestly, because thanks to my husband and thanks to, a few different things, we've been able to really kind of hone in to what we want our business to look like and what we want our brand to be and how we want people to view what we've put together. And so it's been fun. It's been really challenging, in a good way.
So, did you start the photo business with a brand in mind, or did you start with a passion for photography and then figure out you needed branding to sort of aid you in that?
That's a good question. I think I definitely started more with the passion aspect of it. I remember I shot an engagement session for my brother-in-law. And I didn't even, because I went from shooting video to photos. And so, I had some video equipment and my brother-in-law got engaged and I said, "Oh, I'll do your engagement photos." I shot everything in manual. I didn't even use autofocus because I was used to shooting in manual for video. And so now when I look back at the photos, I'm like, oh, thankfully they're super sweet and cute and they look great. But I'm like, oh man, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but how I felt when I was shooting those photos, like ever since then, I've just been, I don't know, it was like it just did something for my soul. I love even now just like shooting engagement sessions or on wedding day, working with couples. Like, I don't know, I just absolutely love it. So, it definitely started with that. And then, as we started developing our business, you start thinking about branding. What kind of business do we want to put together? What kind of impression do we want to make on people who see our website, our social media? I forgot to mention too, my husband does all the videography too. So I didn't mention that. So we're like a team. We do photo and video together. I
Right
mean,
on. That's awesome. Yeah. So then if you had to describe branding to the person who like has no clue what that means. I mean, Nike's a brand, Adidas is a brand, Starbucks. Why does a small business, you know what I mean? Like how would you describe branding to
yeah.
a person who's just into this?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think we all think we know what branding it. Like we have this idea like, oh, this is my brand is my logo or my brand is the font or this, that, and the other thing. But really, and I actually did some reading up on it too before this podcast just to get really clear on what branding actually means. And essentially, it's the feeling that so you present yourself, you present your website, you present your social media to potential clients, to the public. And it's the feeling and the impression, it's basically how they view you, right? So I think what you want to do is think about, well, how do I want to be perceived? Like how do I want potential clients and how do I want the public to view my business? And that's basically your brand. So it's the feelings they get when they look at your social media and website and all that. So that's
So
how I would describe it.
yeah, so that's totally true, right? Like the feeling that you get and the colors and the font, all that sort of like is aiding you in understanding the brand. It's not necessarily the
Mm-hmm.
brand itself.
Right.
So then when you sat down with your husband and you guys decided, was there a moment where you guys decided we need to make a brand and we're going to go this way? Or has it just been like a conglomerate of ideas or?
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. I wish you could just like, and I don't know if this is a lot of people's experience, but I mean, yeah, it would be nice to sit down and say, oh yeah, this is clearly what our brand, what we want our brand to be. But I think it's kind of a progressive thing. Photography is such an artistic field, and you're learning so much along the way, and you're analyzing your ideal client and your pricing structure and all these things that I think at least for us, we definitely kind of revisit the brand as we progress in our business, which I think you kind of, because I think your brand can change a little bit too. You can start out having a certain brand, and then as you figure out what kind of clients you like working with and what you want to charge and all that kind of stuff, as you develop a better understanding of what that is for you, then you pull that into your brand.
Yeah, that's actually super helpful, right? Lots of people, I'd imagine, self included, would think we have to have this major launch, right? Or something. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
do, maybe that's included in part of that process, but that's actually really helpful that it's a process over time and it's always being refined. I mean, even just thinking of like Starbucks, who we mentioned, their brand is constantly changing. And even with the logo, right? I remember it used to be
Yeah.
like words and it's all every few years it's always changing. So that's important to think about. So thinking about branding and stuff, it can be pretty overwhelming for lots of people
Yeah.
who are like, where the heck do I even start? If you had
Right.
to like give some advice to like a new photographer who's just like, hey, where would I even start with this? What would you say to them?
Yeah. I think, there's different things that you hear, like, what 3 words would you use to describe your brand? Like, I remember at different points thinking, what do I want? So we talked about how it's a certain feeling that the public or your potential clients get when they view your business. And so I'm like, what kind of feelings do you want that person to feel when they look at? One kind of thing that's easy, I feel like, is to identify what you don't want people to feel when they look at your business, right? So like, I don't want people coming to my website and my social media thinking that I am a super, super cheap and affordable photographer. I don't want them to come to my business and think that I'm kind of sloppy, right? Or I just am not professional. That's for me personally. So for my business, it's very important that I present, I want people to think I want people to look at my website and my social media and say, that looks like I'm going to have to invest in that packet or whatever. Like, it's not going to be cheap, but wow, it's really nice. It's clean. It's professional, So I think that identifying what you don't want to come across as is a start. I don't know if that's helpful.
That's super helpful. That's a cool
Okay.
way to think about it. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, often we're trying to think of an image that we want to achieve or like live up to, and maybe, well, okay, what does that actually mean? Because you're not trying to be like other people. You still need to be yourself.
Right.
So that's
Right.
a good way to think through that.
Yeah.
Um,
One other thing too is one thing that is helpful for me, and I'm constantly doing this. Obviously, we want, like you said, we want to be our own. We don't want to copy someone else, but we also gain inspiration from other artists, and we are drawn to certain people's work. So I'm constantly, any kind of work, any photographers whose work I'm drawn to, I'm always analyzing, well, why? Why am I drawn to that work? What feelings do I get when I look at their portfolio? And that gives you an idea of the feelings that you want to evoke in someone when they look at your work. And then it's kind of building, when you kind of identify what you want to be viewed as and how you want to make people feel, then you can kind of start building on that with how you design your website, how you put together your social media and things like that.
yeah, that's super helpful. Did you ever notice a change in your business? I mean, 3 years is not a long time. That's pretty incredible that you just jumped into it and it's like, bam, here you are. I mean, you have like, I don't know how many followers you have on Instagram. Not that that's like a measure of whatever.
Right.
I mean, it kind of is in this world where it's like people are attracted to certain things and then they follow it and engage. And so you've come a long way really quickly, I think. You
Mhm.
have many photographers who are just floundering for a long time. Did you notice a change in your business when you started implementing new things, or was there a moment where you guys decided to like, we're going to change some stuff, and then you notice a big change happen?
Yeah, I have to say that the first thing that comes to mind, so for me over the years, thinking about our brand and what we want to portray, um, definitely want to showcase like a higher end um, experience with our clients. And so again, I kind of analyzed a lot. Well, why do I think this photographer looks luxury, or why does this photographer seem high end, or why do I look at their page and think they must charge a lot? And honestly, one of the big things that I saw a lot was film photography. And I realized, that kind of photography I was really drawn to, the aesthetic too. So honestly, I think when I started implementing film into my business, which that's a whole nother subject. A lot of photographers, I think, feel nervous about the cost of implementing film into their business. But to me, visually, I associate that typically with the more luxury branded photographers. So, but beyond that, the reason why I wanted to implement it is because I love the look of it, and now it's just been so amazing having that be a part of things, a part of the business. But so I would say that because it is, like I said, it's a certain aesthetic, so your portfolio transforms a little bit. I think. And so visually, people think or feel something when they look at those images. They may not even know what it is exactly. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
so absolutely, yeah. So the actual work that you're producing is what's drawing in
Yeah.
people the most. Although fonts and colors and things like that help that vibe, you're saying it's the actual work that you're doing that's going to attract, the client that you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's a big part of it. I think, a lot of photographers, we want to be at a certain caliber, and we think we can do all these different things without really analyzing, well, my work has to be of that caliber too. Not that there's not really successful photographers who might be more mediocre photographers, but it's kind of a combination of everything, I feel like. And you just want to, when you're thinking about brand, I think you have to apply it like even to how you appear. Like, I was reading something or listening to something about, your face and your personality are part of your brand too. So it's very easy for me, like, I don't like being on the camera. I don't want to do like Instagram live videos and all this stuff, but I've been pushing myself to, because obviously when you see someone who's the face of their brand, you develop certain feelings. And so I want to have my potential clients feel positive towards me, feel like know me, feel comfortable. So that's a part of it too.
Yeah, social media, it seems, is massive in this world,
And
obviously. And going live and things like that, which I know you do all the time. That is so scary to lots of people.
it's
Um,
awful.
yeah. So what did you do, or what have you done to like think about, okay, you know what? This is a part of being my business, right? I am my business. And what sort of pushed you to finally just make
Yeah.
that first Instagram live happen?
Yeah. Honestly, and this is thanks to my husband too, because he talks like this a lot, but um constantly thinking about, like, it's just business. Like, I hate that sounds bad, but I think as photographers, we're creatives and we're artists, and we feel a lot about our work, and we feel like it's easy, I feel like, to be a little bit emotion based in this profession, but to be successful as a business, you really have to think a lot about, well, what's going to get me where I want to be in business. And so a lot of times I will have a mental talk with myself and say, like, okay, yeah, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I feel uncomfortable doing this, but is it going to help the business? So then I try to just get over myself and do it.
Yeah. So for the person who's like never done it,
Yeah.
is there like a reward that you feel afterwards of doing it, like accomplishment, or how do you feel afterwards?
I feel tired.
Yes, totally, totally.
I feel tired, but it's, yeah, you don't necessarily, I don't, it'd be good if you could like pat yourself on the back and be like, yeah, I should do that more often, because usually after I do live videos and stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm so exhausted. But it's also good too, because it is a challenge, and I do genuinely, believe it or not, I do want to present my true personality to my audience. Like, I want people to feel like they get to know me. And it's just different with social media, because and I don't know how old you are, but like, I'm 31, and I didn't grow up with this social media stuff. So for me, I grew up being a very interpersonal communicator, which I'm way more comfortable. I'm not comfortable, with talking to 50 people or whatever amount of people on a device. So it
Mhm.
feels really weird. um but just kind of talking yourself into, like, well, I do, this is going to help my business, it's going to help my brand, this is going to help people get to know me. I know I have people following me on Instagram, or people connected with me who are interested in my work, but they haven't hired me yet, right? So what do I want them to feel? I want them to know me. And if they don't connect with me and we don't work together, then maybe it's a better thing anyway. And so it's kind of this mental dialogue you have going in your brain about, just kind of going for it and taking the emotion out of it as much as you can and doing what's best for your business.
Yeah, I'm the same age actually. And I remember like seeing kids on their phones talking to themselves or like on, Facebook. I don't even know what they would use. Probably like Snapchat was the thing.
Right,
And being
right.
like, wow, they're so narcissistic and this and that. And it's like, are you really, I mean, this is just a different era that we're in where this is how
For
you
sure.
communicate with people. And this is like talking face to face now. So maybe Instagram Live and social media can be a whole episode that we can spend so much time on that alone, I think.
Oh, for sure.
The fact that it like supports your brand and fits into it is so important nowadays, for sure. So for the new photographer getting into thinking about branding, are there areas that you would like point them to say like, hey, here are some like helpful places to go to just start thinking about it? Or what did you use to sort of guide you in that process?
Yeah, I think that the nice thing about the time we are living in is we have a wealth of information at our fingertips with social media, YouTube. Um, I think that, just being open to understanding the business side of things is super huge for photography, for having a successful photography business. Um, I've listened to podcasts on, I've listened to podcasts on um, marketing, or like actually even like sales, non-photography related, photography on sales, how to land a sale, and we don't think about it necessarily, but every single time we get on the phone or we do a FaceTime or a Zoom chat with a potential client, we're essentially selling ourselves. So, at TED Talks, one of the biggest things that have helped my business is one of the most famous TED Talks by Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've seen it, but Start With Why. It's all about essentially people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So we kind of live in this, we kind of assume that if we present ourselves and say, this is the service I provide, this is what I do, and just kind of like present it all, that if somebody likes it, they'll want to purchase it or work with us. But the whole different way to look at it is people don't necessarily just buy what you do. They want to understand why you do it. Like, so anyway, just kind of podcasts, different TED Talks that are not necessarily photography related, but that are business related. It's amazing what you can apply to your business. And I've seen huge growth in just how I interact with a potential client. How I talk to a potential client is so different now than it was when I first started. And it's amazing because it's only been from applying just business advice from people in business. And it's not necessarily like a sales tactic. It's more, and you have to find out what speaks to you too, because there's a lot of advice out there on how to sell or how to, do a brand or whatever, but you got to find what resonates with you too. So for me, the whole concept that Simon Sinek presents is, instead of now talking to clients and saying, here's what I do and here's my packages, instead I talk to them like, what I believe as a photographer, what I believe is that you should have the best day of your life, and photography should complement that, and the entire experience should be joyful for you and easy. I really believe in that experience, providing that for my clients. So it doesn't actually have to do with photographs. It has to do with expressing what I believe in my business and why I'm going to take care of them as clients because of what I feel as a business owner. towards them.
That's huge.
Tangent.
No, yeah, that's awesome. That's super helpful. I'll look up that YouTube
Oh, it's excellent. Yeah.
yeah, and then put that link in there in the descriptions or something for people
Yeah.
to watch later. So yeah, I mean, like, there's so many podcasts out there. You got awesome TED Talks. Is there a podcast that sticks out to you as like, this is the one podcast that was like the coolest that people can check out?
Ooh,
It's cool
you
if it's
know,
not.
I kind of jump around with podcasts. So I couldn't say a specific one. I've listened to like bits and pieces of different ones, kind of depending on what I'm looking for at the moment. So
Cool. Yeah.
yeah, not one specific. There's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is kind of like a super broad question and might not actually be, I think it can be helpful, but there might not be an answer for it. Um, do you ever see any mistakes that people are making in their branding that you're like, this comes out to you as like, oh, I think that's a mistake, right? Because branding is like a
Yeah,
very personal, it's subjective a little bit, but I think there is kind of a science a little bit to it. Do you
for
ever see
sure.
any mistakes that people make?
Yeah, I think that if, for example, I wanted to present myself and create a brand that is a luxury brand as a photographer, and I just happened to get this client with really terrible style or DIY everything at their wedding, which nothing's wrong with DIY, but and I shoot a wedding or I shoot a couple, and as much as, of course we want to care for our clients and treat them just like everybody else, but if for some reason I don't feel like the aesthetic is in line with my brand, I won't share any images. So I see a lot of photographers share like anything that they shoot. And I think we have a tendency to want to do that as photographers because, again, we're artists. We have an emotional connection to certain images. We really love this certain couple. We had a great time at that wedding, whatever it is. And so we have this emotional connection to certain images, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's in line with our brand. So I feel like that's one thing I see a lot. And that's one thing I'm constantly aware of, that, I take care of all my clients the same, value them, and want to work hard for them. But sometimes if I feel like maybe like even something simple, for example, like I love color, but in my brand, I feel like I do a lot of neutrals. It's a very soft color palette that I present. I've shot weddings that are beautiful, amazing couple, but they're super bright and bold. I don't put that everywhere because I feel like it's just a little too bold for me. And that's part of my personality, which I guess is part of your brand too. So if that makes sense, yeah, I think making sometimes just decisions based on emotion versus best for the business can affect your brand negatively.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, there was something you said there about like showing what you only showing what you want to show or what you
Mhm.
want to shoot type thing. And that's really hard for lots of people, right? They just want to show it all because they think that's going to just get them more work. Was there a moment that you switched to that, or have you always kind of operated on that mindset of just
I think I've always kind of operated on that mindset. Even when I first started out and I was shooting weddings, like lower budget weddings. Yeah. At the beginning, my goal was to, I knew the type of weddings I wanted to shoot. You know, and not to say, again, like the couples that I worked with in the beginning, amazing. Like I wouldn't change it. And we had a wonderful time. But you kind of have a goal in mind. You have an aesthetic in mind that you're going for. And now I feel like I'm gone on a tangent. And I can't remember your
no,
question.
yeah, no, totally. I mean, yeah.
Sorry.
So you've always been sort of showing just what you want to
Oh,
the best, I guess, or
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I have basically tried to do that. And in the beginning when I was shooting weddings I knew that the weddings I was shooting in the beginning, if I posted that all over my social media and my website, it would attract very similar clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I wanted to attract a specific client that wasn't that. So, when I didn't have the content I wanted, I went out and created the content I wanted. So styled shoots, especially in the beginning, if you have an idea of your brand in mind or have a direction you're going and you're not getting paid to shoot the type of imagery that you want to shoot, go out there and create it and just show that. And then hopefully that, and that started attracting the clientele that I wanted. And now I'm getting more and more weddings that are I'm like, it's exactly what I want. So, and I do a lot less styled shoots now because I'm starting to get paid for that. But again, it's kind of like goes back to, we're in a super competitive industry and you have to like just kind of go out and get it and you're actually going to put forth some expense. It's going to cost you in the beginning to shoot content that, you want, that you're not getting paid for. So.
Totally. That's super helpful. You've mentioned a little bit, we're talking a lot about like social media and how it interacts with the brand and all that good stuff and how we use that. Is there any trends that you've seen in wedding photography or videography even in the last 5 years or so through social media that you see influencing the wedding industry or vice versa or anything like that? That's a question I didn't shoot you in the email, but it just
that's okay.
Mind, yeah.
No, that's okay. I don't know if this answers your question, but I mean, the first thing I think of as a huge influencer is blogs, wedding blogs. That's a whole nother, publication and all that kind of stuff is, I don't want to say like trends. They kind of set the bar for photography, I guess. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious, like someone earlier mentioned, like, I don't know if you've heard of, I don't want to throw any names out there, but this sort of like orangey vibe that you see.
Style, like.
Yeah, I guess like, yeah, style and trends and things like that on the social media. I feel like that's something that I've been shooting. I was shooting off and on. So I started in 2009 and then I took a break and now I'm back in it.
Okay.
And when I was first photographing weddings, it was like, this did not exist. And so I came back into the scene and I'm like, whoa, what is this orangey? I don't know. Have you seen anything like that?
Yes, definitely. Well, it's so funny because sometimes you can look at photography and you like know what decade it was shot.
Yeah,
you
totally.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Which you talked about film is you shoot film and digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about film and how I think film is, people are gravitating to it more as far as the couples, I think, or the blogs, because it's timeless, because it's forever, it's going to be pretty. You look at a really nice picture from the 80s, it's not going to be, whatever.
Yeah.
You won't, it'll be hard to tell, maybe not for the hair and stuff, that'll kind of give it away, but yeah. So anyways, that's super cool.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like a big trend is this very, like kind of, I don't know if sepia is probably not the right word, or sepia, but kind of an orange cast over everything. You see a lot of like adventure photographers, elopement, like very attracting kind of the wild spirit. I see a lot. I think it's not my personal taste. It's definitely something, like you said, that is very current, and it's kind of really gotten a hold the past few years. And I know there are certain clients that or couples that are totally drawn to that work. And I think if you are, that you should do what you're drawn, you should have what you're drawn to. For me personally, like you mentioned with film, I lean a lot more towards a more timeless aesthetic. I definitely want couples to, 20, 30 years down the line, I want them to look at their photographs and not say, well, that was like the trend at the time. This is why the images look that way, and maybe that may not be people's experience with very trendy photographers. I don't know. But, again, it's kind of like you have to do you. And I feel like that timeless aesthetic is in line with my brand as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about a bunch of just big ideas as far as branding, how to brand. I think the major takeaway is always asking that why, right? Getting back to the purpose, and then how does everything kind of serve that? We haven't talked a lot, which I think is going to be surprising to the listeners, about colors and fonts and all that good stuff. Which is actually, I think, in line with what you find in the reading too on branding. It doesn't start with that, and that's probably, that might be like the ending to all of this. Where does that stuff kind of fit in? And have you consciously thought about, you know what, these are the colors that I'm going to stick with? Because I know some people do that. Is that something that you thought about, color and font and all that stuff?
Yeah. So it does tie in again to your personality a little bit. Like for me, well, let me start with like logo. So logo and font, right. It's not your brand, but it's a symbol of your brand essentially. So people develop a feeling looking at your work, getting to know you, taking in everything that you're presenting to them, and then they associate it with your logo. So I definitely had, conscious thought about what kind of logo I wanted. It wasn't the first logo I started out with. I started out with a logo that was a lot more, like, I guess when you looked at it, it was a little bit more casual, I guess you could say. So the logo I have now, I really was drawn to it for a few different reasons. And I think you do have to think about, well, what do I feel when I look at this font, or what words do I associate with this logo? And I think intuitively we can answer that pretty quickly. If we look at different logos, we think to ourselves, wow, that looks really bougie, right? Or this looks really like comfortable and casual. So depending on your business, you have to analyze, well, what feelings what's going to come to mind for someone when they see this logo. So for me, the one that I have currently, I really liked how it was a little bit on the modern side and kind of contemporary, clean. It has a little bit of, like, there's a little part of it that shows, it's like I guess some not greenery, because it's all black. But basically what I wanted of my logo, I want people to look at it and think, wow, it looks high end, it looks clean, it looks classic, because those are things that I want people to feel when they look at my work and stuff like that. So you want it, you just want it to be in line with the other things you're trying to present to your potential clients. You want them to get the same feeling, right?
Yeah. So then, do photographers need a logo?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
There you go. So you guys heard it here. You need a logo,
and ask people, ask your, it's a great conversation to have with people, whether it's your family members or your friends. Tell them, I'm thinking of getting a logo. These are the feelings that I want to invoke when people look at my business. Do you think that this logo, this font does that? And take feedback and,
cool.
And take your time.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful, right? Because people can help describe you as a person, right? Because they know you, and same thing with the logo, right?
Right.
So is there anything else that you thought about as far as like branding, that you think people would be interested in or curious about? Or I think...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this might be just a personal opinion, but like we kind of touched on earlier, sometimes I think we can get overwhelmed on, I need to have a brand, I need to understand it and present it, you know, properly and perfectly. But for me personally, I found that, yeah, you can have a good idea of a brand, but it grows, it changes, it can grow and change with you as you move forward in your business. And so I think that can kind of take some of the pressure off. So for photographers who are new and are thinking about branding, and, it's okay to not have it all figured out right away. Um, Talk about it with people, try, again, look at other photographers and look at what's working for them. Why are you attracted to their work and their brand? How can you make that your own? So I don't know. That's what I would say just with branding, like kind of take it seriously, but take it easy on yourself too. Like don't overwhelm yourself with trying to have it all figured out. That's just like life advice though too.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I think that's super important and very helpful. Um, so is there anything that you are excited about in your business coming up in the future? I mean, hopefully soon lockdown or shelter in
Oh,
place is going to be lifted and we'll be able to actually get back to work. But like,
yeah.
what are you excited about in the next few years?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, Honestly, I'm really excited to work with a lot of the clients that I have booked right now. I mean, it's crazy times, and I've been talking with a lot of them about postponement, obviously. Um, so that's been hard, but I, for the most part, I get to know my clients pretty well before shooting their wedding day. So I'm big on communication and getting to know each couple on a personal level, what's special to them. Every couple is unique and different. So what I look forward to, which I think is hopefully this just continues throughout the business, is, you know, establishing these relationships and then getting to celebrate with these couples on their wedding day. And I'm honestly looking forward to, I mean, it's terrible, like what's going on, and, not only on the wedding industry, but obviously the couples that are having to reschedule their wedding. But I've been having the conversation that I've been having with my clients have been like so understanding both ways. So I feel really grateful for that. And it just makes me, I'm really excited to celebrate with those couples whenever their like official day does come, if it's been postponed. So, because I think that it's just going to be all the more of a celebration, for them and their loved ones. And I think it's really a privilege to document, even though it's really hard times right now. I would say I'm looking forward to all this COVID stuff being over, but once we get to actually shoot those weddings of the couples who have been through this crazy pandemic, I think it's going to be a real special time. And I just feel grateful to be a part of it.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, me too. Gosh. And I want to shout out before we leave your husband's app. So
yes.
I checked it out. This thing is killer. You can, okay, so one of this, so can you explain what the app is and then I'll tell you
Yes.
what I like about it?
Yes. Okay. So, the last about year and a half, my brother, who's a wedding videographer, he's been doing videography and commercial videography for 15 years. So him and my husband got together and collaborated on creating an app, a mobile app that is a buy and sell marketplace for filmmakers and photographers specifically. So it's a peer-to-peer buy and sell. Um, so it's an alternative to eBay, Craigslist, Facebook groups. Essentially, you can list your items just using your phone. Super user friendly, easy. What I love about it too is, especially right now in the past couple months, they've been implementing some social elements to it as well. So I think you can already do this now in the app, but you can plug in your Instagram handle. So not only can you buy and sell on there, but people can view your work. There's going to be an artist spotlight. There's a blog and a podcast. So it's not only is it to buy and sell camera gear, but it is also to provide content for photographers and filmmakers. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, when I looked at it, I was checking it out. It's like, okay, this feels like a safe space for photographers who need gear to come together and actually trade with each other. Because you have no clue who you're interacting with through Craigslist or
Yes.
eBay. But these are people with reputations that,
Yeah.
are connected, and everyone's sort of looking out for each other in this world, it feels
Right.
like. And that
I
I really
yeah.
appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said it's a safe place, because that's really been the goal too from the beginning, is to create an environment where you can buy and sell with confidence, and nobody's going to try to send you a cashier's check or anything shady like that. It's all powered through Stripe. It's free to use, and it's just, yeah, we're hoping that it just gets some traction and people start also giving feedback on it too. I know my husband and my brother, they're really interested in photographers' feedback on the app, what's working, what's not working, so that they can just continue to improve it for the users and grow the user base.
Yeah, here it is. I mean, if you guys are thinking about getting into photography, thinking about branding, and I think in the next 2 episodes or so, we have one on gear. I mean, wait till you listen to that episode and then go and buy all this gear from this app. It's perfect. It's a great way too for new photographers to get started